into one and broken down the dividing wall, that is the hostility between us. It is dead. The wall of hostility between humanity was broken by Jesus Christ, by the blood of Jesus Christ. There's power in that blood. You know that old hymn, Power in That Blood? Hostility no longer has the power to control us unless we give it that power. We are sons and daughters of the risen Lord that has vanquished death and the forces of death forever. If we choose to go back into the life of hostility, the life of inferiority, the life of those that are in and those that are out, that's purely our choice. Because in the blood of Christ, a new creation has been established on all the earth. The creation of a humanity redeemed by God, unified by God's grace, therefore having the power to live out God's grace in our daily lives. The words that you've shared today were fantastic. Living in the light is our call. We can be Christians and choose to live in darkness. We can be Christians and choose to surrender to hostility. We can be Christians and live in fear and anxiety. What if? What now? But that is our choice. It has no power over us because the blood of Christ has vanquished the power of death and the power of division for all time. Now the world's not living that way. But we don't need the world to live that way for us to choose to live the gospel of Christ. It is our choice to live in the light. There's no promise that we're going to fix anybody. There is a promise that our light will shine. So tonight when the men go and feed the homeless, it's not so that they fix the homeless. It's not so that hunger is solved for all of your county. It's so that the light might shine. It is so that faithfulness to Christ might be seen. And frankly, it's so that we might be changed. Because the world around us is a hard-hearted place. A place of judgment. A place of hostility. And we in the church live out the reality that that wall has been broken down. The world can live that way if they want. But we are children of the risen Lord. Children of the light who can live in the graciousness that comes from that. So Paul goes on to say that we very much make a dwelling place for God. If we live in the hostility, we are pushing God out. If we live in the grace of the blood of Christ, we are welcoming the light in to our lives. And so it's the way we treat each other. Logan and the other examples that you gave were spot on. And Logan, I dare say that the experience that you had at Camp Hope this past week was about how you were treated. You probably learned a lot. I know they have Bible studies. I know they have chapel service. But I bet you it was the way you were treated that made that such a great week for you. And so it is for us in the church. It's how we're nurtured. It's how we're tended. It's how we're cared for. And so how great it is to move from here to go to a garden of dedication that reminds us of God's life and tending. God's life-giving spirit that grows even in the midst of the weeds. Yeah, we need to pluck the weeds, but we have faith that God's power of life is greater than any negative that comes into our life. Catherine, your music today I know we have beautiful acoustics in our sanctuary, and everybody comments it. But your music today in the silence or in this arena of God's creation had special poignancy for me. Because we are with the heavenly angels celebrating God's goodness, God's light, God's creation, not only in the trees and the grass, but in each one of us, in the hearts, the redeemed hearts that God has given us to live so well. Our liturgy for the dedication is going to have a closing from Isaiah 58. And the last two lines says, "You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail." And on the back is the context for that promise. The first 10 verses of Isaiah 58. In the second paragraph, verse 6 says, "Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own kin." Then it closes, says, "Here I am, if you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil. If you offer your food to the hungry, and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom be like the new day." There were 4 servicemen that gave their life this past week in yet another crazy episode where evil, the power of death, sought to overcome good. But the testimony of those 4 lives given in sacrifice for others is a light that shines far brighter than the evil of that day. The people that will be committed to serve with greater commitment. The people that will give testimony to the goodness in those 4 lives. We will remember with the dedication of this garden some that have passed before us, the Rutledge and Brandenburg families. Their light continues to shine. They were not perfect, that was not the point, but they were faithful. Faithful to trust in God's light. Let it shine. Let's turn to the liturgy of creation on page 26.